I'm talking right now with Dean from Secret Space. So they have an album coming out very soon. It's called The Window Room. And it was worked on by Will Yip, but we'll talk about that. But first, I want to talk a little bit about Secret Space. You guys have an interesting sound. What would you say like your main influences are with that sound?
Oh man, that's such a hard question. I've been saying recently that like the fact that we're like in our late 20s and we're like playing music that we listen to in our teens. I don't know, like that's how I kind of just like a more mature version of that. That's how I kind of just classify our sound. Or like I feel like a lot of people in the scene we're in are like just in their early 20s and like it's not like we're necessarily reinventing the wheel, but I feel like because like we're a little older, we've kind of, done more stuff, been in more bands, it just kind of gives like a new angle to it. So,
Yeah.
but if you do want three bands, like my press answer is Jimmy World, Third Eye Blind, Elliott Smith. I feel like just like equally
I feel
those
like
three groups.
I feel like those three, especially like Jimmy World and Elliott Smith, you will be like maybe you won't be, but a lot of people will be amazed how many bands are inspired by just those two, and like they're not people
Yeah,
that ever really became mainstream famous. Like they aren't like I don't know the biggest names ever, but like the songwriters consistently go back to them. Like they're like one of those
yeah.
groups. They're both like one of those groups. But so yeah, that's pretty cool, and I definitely understand. Like so many bands now are like kind of going back. Like it's almost like we skipped over that like mid 2000s sound. We're like, let's not do that so much. And like,
We'll get there probably in the next couple of years.
oh
It'll
yeah,
be a thing. Like
that's how it
bands
is.
want to sound like Silver Sun pickups or something.
Oh yeah, you know
Yeah.
that's coming. That's how the cycle of music works. It'll be like techno meets like Panic at the Disco, and we'll be like, oh great, this is the new biggest thing.
We're back here again. Great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is, but I love the sound that's coming out of a lot of these bands now, and you actually work as a producer, so you get to work with a lot of different bands, and I wanted to talk a little about that and what is it? How is it different working on someone else's music versus like working on your own stuff? Like when you're working on Secret Space.
Just like looking at it without a preconceived notion of what it's supposed to be, and then like that's either the best or the worst thing about working with people is like if they have a preconceived notion, because like some people are super open-minded to just like bringing someone else in and then being like, oh, I hear it this way, you know what I mean? But like that's like it's really fun to get into people's heads when you're producing, but like that was maybe like I don't know if that's probably the biggest struggle of doing this record. Like I just kind of gave Will like I just kind of like trusted every decision he made, but like deep down sometimes I was like just kind of like freaked out, just like oh he doesn't hear it the same way I do. But like every time something like that happened, it literally always turned out for the better. So I mean like just the role of producer is like it's just so important, and I think it's like such a underrated role. So
I definitely think it is underrated. A lot of fans don't even go in and look at the producers, and I guess
yeah,
that information isn't that accessible. So I kind of understand why you it's hard to do unless you go out of the way and you're like, what producer? What did they do before? How is their sound? Like how they affect how it sounds? And
right,
but there is definitely a lot that they add. It's almost like an editor for a writer because like
yeah,
when
yeah,
when you write your own stuff like you don't always see the things that might sound weird or like that other people might not get, but the
right.
producer.
I mean, with Will, I honestly he's like a fourth band member because like he wrote a decent amount of stuff. Like we came with the songs, but like we reworked a lot, and then like Stars like. That's pretty much like 50-50 written. Like he wrote a lot of those melodies just because we did it so quickly. So like it is like having an editor, and sometimes it's like having I don't know. I don't even want to say ghostwriter because people know who he is. And like you're talking about sound, like he's one of the few producers I feel like has such a specific sound that is like everyone knows one of his records when you hear it. That like he's actually sought after for that, and like that's just like it's pretty amazing in like today's day and age to be someone like that. You know what I mean?
It's really cool to see, and it's so awesome when I heard that you guys were working with them, and then that you got signed to Equal Vision, and now it's like wow, like Secret Space is
Yeah.
fucking killing it. I gotta talk to these guys. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna hit Dean up.
It's been going fast. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to just like stay above the wave of things, you know what I mean, and
Yeah.
not think too much about it, and just like and keep writing, man. Like I swear, like half of the next LP is like already written. Like I always just move on to the next thing, probably to a fault to some extent, but like I've just been writing in all my downtime that I can. But yeah, it's crazy even that like the record's 2 weeks away from and we're gonna be on tour. Like that starts in 2 weeks. So I mean, for as like fast as stuff has taken off, it's just been like getting even faster. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. I guess another thing we can talk about is the writing on this new album. Is there any cool stories or like experience writing a certain one of the songs that you feel like was special or something that's memorable from working on this album?
I just like so we're actually in the room that I write in. We're in the window room right now.
Oh, nice.
It just started as like a weird like I was trying to have some kind of like I don't know, just like different narrative, you know what I mean? And like I just decided like, well, I'm gonna just kind of write about writing. That's like a lot of the stuff is like about my process. And I was really trying to just like tell stories of stuff I was going through, but kind of like looking from the outside, from like a non-objective perspective, trying to be super honest about stuff as opposed to like, this makes me feel blah blah blah. It's more like this is what happened, like objectively. You know what I mean? So I'm proud of that, like kind of coming from that perspective. I think too, like Stars. I know I've said this in a couple like interviews before, but that was just crazy how we wrote that. Like I just kind of been messing around with that idea like just before we went into the studio. I hadn't even showed the band, and we put it together in like 2 days. Like just like the very end, we had we knew we were gonna have a little bit extra time, and I was like showing probably the week before we were out of the studio, I was showing everybody like the riff and the chorus and stuff like that, and we just like wrote and recorded it in 2 days, and like I don't know, man, it was just so weird, like you're not having your lead off single 2 days before you're gonna be done. We kind of sensed it too, like a week before we were done. Like I don't know if we have a lead off single, and I'm glad that we did something that like fast and in the moment, because like when you write like that, sometimes you kind of don't get hung up on pretenses of like this is what a Secret Space song. This is how you have to write a Secret Space song, I guess. That's like probably the biggest problem we had leading up to this record was like we just couldn't figure out like how to write a Secret Space song. And then when we finally like did it without thinking about it, I think that like the best song came from that.
Nice.
So
yeah, and there is a special sound that you want in that lead off song too. So
right.
I'm excited to check out the album once it's fully out.
I could show you the email chain with the label of like 100 emails where we went back and forth between 5 different songs about like which should be the lead off, and then like we just had thought about putting out Stars later, but then we were just like, you know what? Why don't we just start with this? Like, It's clearly like, if not the best, like whatever, personal opinion, like the most like well-rounded. Because like I don't think a lot of the other songs really sound like Stars. I think they all just kind of like go in different paths. It's a lot of like, our bassist brother described it as like that band from like the late 90s who does the second record that like explores more their sound, and like our first record is like our second record, you know what I mean? So maybe the next thing we do will be like more focused, like less all over the place, like trying stuff. But yeah, so Stars is definitely like the most well-rounded thing to start with.
Oh, perfect, man. So one final question I guess I have is, do you have any hobbies or like interests outside of music, stuff that you're into, like non-music related?
I'm really getting into like sports again. I don't really like I just started listening to like sports radio during the day when I'm working on stuff, and now I'm just like, how do I explain it? Like I don't even watch games very often, but I really like to keep up with like what's going on, and I feel like sports has become like more a part of like pop culture again, kind of like it was like in the 90s with like Michael Jordan and Nike and everything. And I don't know, it just kind of fascinates me. So I've been really into that recently. And like, I don't know, we're all kind of pretty serious about like staying fit when we're on the road too. Like something it took me, half a decade of like touring in other bands and not being fit to realize how tired you get. So I don't know. I try to like run every day and stuff like that. And I have periods where I'm like super, super into all that stuff. So, but yeah, honestly, like I've got asked that question before. Like if it's specifically asking what do you do to relax, it's honestly like writing music. Like I can never turn that part off. But like I'm glad I at least have something else to do every once in a while that isn't specifically just like music.
So, before we finish up, just what are some things that you have planned for the direct future? You said you got the album coming out like really soon, like a few weeks, right?
Yep.
2 weeks. And
Album
then
comes out in 2 weeks. Tour with Turnover in sports. That's about 2 weeks, and we have like a couple days after that on our own. We have Audio Tree lined up. Little Elephant is coming out soon. We've been talking about doing another music video soon because we really like the Stars reception went so well. And yeah, I'm sure we'll be out on the road in the fall. Can't, talk about too much about that yet, but I'm sure stuff will get announced soon. And yeah, I mean, like, just kind of try to keep shit going from there. Like, again, riding the wave, slow and steady, just seeing what comes of it. But I mean, it's been like a great year so far, and I'm sure it'll keep going that way.
yeah, man, seems like it. I'm really excited to get everyone to hear this new stuff and start talking about it and see what
Hell
everyone
yeah.
else thinks. So, thanks for talking to me, man. Had a great time talking to you.